I don't have the cravings anymore. If I see them, like let's just say I'm at an event where other people are not eating plant-based and I see something that I used to eat and think it was delicious, I usually either think it in my head or I say it out loud. Been there, done that. Been there, done that.
Hi, everyone. My name is Michelle Cen, and it is my honor and delight to have on Brenda Workman today. She is a professional speaker, a food for life instructor in West Virginia. She's been featured in an article on the Today Show, and she's also been interviewed by the Exam Room podcast. And Brenda reached out to me after she read my article about True North in the Health Science magazine. And I just am so happy to have her on here today to share her story, which is both incredibly moving and shows how all of us have the ability to change ourselves as long as we arm ourselves with the knowledge and have the gumption to do so. So Brenda, thank you so much for being here today. Would you like to tell us, how did you get started on this crazy plant-based journey?
Well, I sure appreciate you having me, Michelle. This is an honor for me to be here. Well, I guess my story is similar to so many. Sometimes you hit rock bottom before you find the answer. And I grew up in West Virginia most of my life, and we had meat at every meal. I just thought everybody else ate that way. And over time, it took a toll on my health. And so it was when my health reached rock bottom, my doctor suggested a plant-based diet, which I am so grateful to him because he had done his research. And so I jumped in with both feet, and the rest is history.
Yeah, and as you say, your community, West Virginia, it's not necessarily known for the quality of food there or the health outcomes. So how did you deal with being so, I guess, different from your peers?
Well, actually, I was very ready for it, and I've never really been one that I kind of I dance to the beat of a different drummer. Like, I don't care really what other people do or what they think about what I do. I'm going to do what I think is best for my family and best for me. I've always had that kind of personality. So that part didn't really bother me. It was just a learning curve because, as you said, West Virginia, we're up at the top, maybe number 3 in the country for obesity, diabetes, heart disease. I mean, it's very, very sad to me, actually. And I'm doing everything I can to try to spread the message. But it was just a learning curve. So when what had happened was I had high cholesterol for probably 25 years and was on statin drugs for 25 years. I thought I would just take them the rest of my life because that's what people do. You know, you get older, you just deteriorate and you're going to be on meds. You just accept it and go on. But then I developed high blood pressure, and I did what so many of us do. And I went to Dr. Google, you know, to see what if a person has high cholesterol and high blood pressure too. And what I found was it very often leads to heart disease. And we had been dealing with aging parents who they were on like 15 meds a day. So I just started playing this scenario in my mind, like, is this the direction you want to go? Is this the type of, do you just want to fall into that and say, well, I'm just getting older, I'm going to have a poor quality of life moving forward? And I didn't want that. So when my doctor said, I recommend plant-based eating, I was just like, thank you for giving me some type of answer, because I've tried to eat healthy off and on my entire adult life and was what I would consider a yo-yo diet, or always on and then off and weight up and weight down, like my entire adult life. So I was ready to jump in with both feet, and I really didn't care what anybody thought. And so I had to saturate myself with books and videos. You know, I at the beginning, it was Dr. Joel Fuhrman that I started listening to, and then Dr. Esselstyn and Dr. T. Colin Campbell, and eventually Physicians Committee, and just everybody that I could, Chef AJ, just everybody that I could, just trying to grasp, what does this look like and how can I make this work? But from the day that he told me, I want you to eat a plant-based diet, I have continued now for 3.5 years just, on the straight and narrow. And because I feel like I did it like that, I saw results very quickly. So if you don't mind me continuing how that doctor's visit, what it led to. So every time I'd go back to him, he would say, "Oh, it looks like we can decrease your cholesterol meds. Oh, I think we can decrease your high blood pressure meds. And looks like your weight is going down." And things kept looking better. Finally, I got off of the blood pressure meds. I lost 60 pounds. And then the day that he took me off the the cholesterol meds, I went out in my car and I cried because I never thought, I've been on this med for 25 years and you're telling me I don't have to have it renewed, this prescription. And I just cried and I thought all I did was change my food. I just changed my food and this has happened. And so I like shout it from the rooftops now because there's so many people that are they're just saying to themselves, "I'm getting older. This is expected. I'm going to be on these meds. Oh, I might have heart disease. It runs in my family." And they just accept it and they don't realize the power that is in the food that we eat.
Mm, wow. And is your husband on board?
Um, he's a little more on board now than he was, but you have to remember, I've been doing this for 3.5 years and he's been very supportive. The only complaint he has, and this is funny, that's why I even share it, is he tells me that my food takes up too much space in the refrigerator because I have boxes of greens and boxes of berries. And, sometimes I do batch cooking and sometimes he'll say, "I can't find anything. There's so many boxes in here." But he was always very supportive and we still go out and eat and he could order for me from any restaurant in the area because he knew what I ate. But it wasn't until just recently that he started eating more plants than usual. And it was because he had some health issues that took place. And so hopefully moving forward, he'll jump on board with the way that I'm doing things because it makes a world of difference.
Absolutely.
But that just goes to show that you can do it even if your spouse doesn't do it. I hear that so much. People say, "Oh, I would do this if my husband would do it." But, are we going to wait for years and years until our spouse jumps on board, or are we going to do what's best for us, for our health? So.
Right. And have you always been the type of person to kind of commit 100% to the path you decide to go on? Like go all in, read all the books?
Mhm. I would say I probably am, black or white as far as that kind of personality. But because of what happened in the past, I learned from it, which we don't always do that, do we? So what I learned was, in fact, I wrote in a health journal for years and I whined a lot. Like I would say, "I don't understand why I can't get this weight off. I'm so frustrated." And one day I got that health journal out and I saw that it was a repetitive thing. And what would happen is I would be eating what I thought was healthy, like I'm on this healthy diet. And then I would allow myself a little something, maybe it was usually high fat, high sugar. And I would say, "Okay, I'm going to eat this because it's allowed on my program. And then, it'll be all right. Then I'll just stay on my program." But it always threw me into this downward spiral. And then I would start binge eating. And in the journal, I would write, "It's been a downward spiral. I'm gaining all my weight back. What is wrong with me? I have no discipline." And then, 3 weeks later, I'd be like, "I'm back on my diet now. I'm doing really well." And then 2 or 3 entries in, I would say, "I had this sweet thing and now I'm in a downward spiral." And I saw that this was a repetitive thing year after year after year. And so what I have learned is it wasn't lack of discipline. It was addiction, is exactly what it was. It was as if when I allowed myself that high fat, high sugar thing, it was like giving an alcoholic a half a glass of something and saying, "Enjoy, you'll be fine." And a little bit was never enough. I would eat it and then I would think I have to have another one. And then I would eat it and I would think I have to have another one. Or what else is sweet in my house? I've got to eat something else. It was just strange. But I've now learned that that is addiction. So because of what I've learned, people will say to me, well, don't you like treat yourself every now and then? So I ask the question, would you do that to an alcoholic? Would you say, you've done so well. You've been sober now for 2 years. Why not have a little drink every now and then to celebrate? It's crazy, but people don't think of it like that. But I know myself and I know what my past has looked like. And so I don't want to, I just got through in October. I have a membership and I was just sharing this with my members. In October, I went out of town and visited a couple of my children that live in Texas. I had relatives in my home for 9 days. I kept a couple of my grandkids overnight for a couple of days, and I was sick at the end of October. So I had all those things that happened in October, but I didn't go off my plant-based journey during that time. Now, was it tricky? And did I have to think ahead of time? And did I have to pack some things for the airport? And my kids are very supportive. They know who I am. They know what I am going to, that I'm going to be plant-based. So they'll have things ready for me when I arrive at their house. And so I was able to stay plant-based even through all of that craziness in October. So life's going to throw it to you no matter what. And I think it's just a commitment that you have to make. It's about my health. It's not about weight loss anymore. It's now about health.
Yeah, that's very, very impressive. Do you ever get cravings for food that's off plan?
I don't really anymore. And I know that may sound strange, but it's almost as if once I got away from it, the cravings went away. But I like to tell this one story. This was like 3 weeks into eating plant-based. And I had been to work that day and I was on my way home, and between work and home was a Dairy Queen. And I knew that Dairy Queen well because I had stopped there many times on a bad day and got a blizzard. So on my way home, I started thinking about that blizzard, and I thought I really would like to have a blizzard because it's been a hard day today. And I started thinking, just kind of processing it in my mind as I drove. And I said to myself, actually out loud, Brenda, it's not about your weight anymore. It's now about your health. Is this really what you want to do? Because I knew that always put me in a downward spiral in the past. And I kept talking to myself until I passed Dairy Queen, came on home. And when I got in the house, I have to admit there was a little bit of like the grieving process. Like, I probably will never have another blizzard, like I was having this little pity party. But I got past it, and I can't remember ever feeling that way again. Like that, once I got through that, I realized that, you know what? It's not about my weight anymore. It's now about my health, and food is my medicine. And I'm going to put in my body the right medicine so that I don't have to take blood pressure meds anymore, or cholesterol meds anymore, or develop heart disease or diabetes like so many of my fellow West Virginians have. So yeah, I don't have the cravings anymore. If I see them, like let's just say I'm at an event where other people are not eating plant-based and I see something that I used to eat and think it was delicious, I usually either think it in my head or I say it out loud, been there, done that. Been there, done that. So, I have eaten my share of whatever that is in my lifetime, and I know where it led. And I know that I could never get enough of it. It never satisfied. And now with the food that I eat, I love the food that I eat. And if I want a little something sweet, then, I make some brownie bites that are plant-based, or I make some pumpkin muffins, or I have something a little sweet if I want something sweet. But I no longer binge on those sweets, and I can control it. And I feel very satisfied with what I'm eating.
A lot of people really struggle with that restrict and binge cycle that he talked about. They go through yo-yo dieting and it's very unsustainable. And I personally know lots of people who struggled for decades with binge eating, actually, especially at night. The cravings for the sweets and the sugar and the fat just hits. So I think when people hear that you have successfully overcome that cycle, and especially binging, that's just a really powerful testament to just how nourishing whole foods can be. They satisfy us with the fiber, the water, the volume, and the nutrients. And I'm I'm wondering if let's say you're eating out or you're traveling, how do you manage that? And I know I think you even have a whole blog post dedicated to this, but in a nutshell, what do you do? And sometimes when we're eating out, we request something oil free, we get some oil in it. Do you eat it anyway?
Yeah, so I haven't been as picky about the oil. I don't use oil at home, but I know that sometimes restaurants, they have oil in their, things that they prepare. So I don't typically say, at the beginning, my husband would be embarrassed because I would say, I want that, Mexican restaurants are one of my favorites. I love just the freshness of their things on their menu. But I would say, I don't put sour cream on it and don't put cheese on it. And, be sure this, be sure that. But after a while, my husband got used to it, that I was going to get it the way that I wanted it. But I don't typically, I haven't been picky in restaurants about oil. Again, I don't use oil at home. But I mean, every restaurant in my area, I have something on the menu that I can get. I've even been, believe it or not, to steakhouses a couple times. And I do ask for like steamed broccoli with no butter sauce on it, and a baked potato or a sweet potato, and maybe even a salad with no cheese. So and then we have a local Japanese restaurant. There's a Chinese restaurant locally. Like, I know exactly when I go in, this is what I'm getting there. And we don't have Mediterranean in my area, but when I travel out of state, I love to eat at Mediterranean restaurants. And I can find things there. So if I don't know the area, I'll go ahead and look up what they have there and what I can have. I'll share another story. When we went to visit our kids in Texas, we went to the Texas State Fair, and I looked up online before we went, is there going to be any plant-based? I kind of thought that there would be a big selection, but there was not. There was like one place that I saw that maybe served like fruit bowls. And so I went ahead and packed like a peanut butter sandwich and sliced apples and put them in my purse just in case. So it gets time to eat, and we have a large family group, and everybody's getting their food. And I'm looking for this fruit place, and like there's probably 100 food places at the Texas State Fair. So I'm looking and I can't find it. And my husband's trying to help me find it. I can't find it. So finally, I spot a roasted corn little booth, where they're doing roasted corn. And I thought, okay, I can do that. I love roasted corn, no butter, of course, put some chili powder on it, some salt and pepper, and I'm good. That was my fair treat for the day. But I did have the peanut butter sandwich, and I did have the sliced apples with me, so I was able to make do. So I think it's always thinking ahead. But if we were traveling and we're on meds, we're going to pack our meds, and we're going to make sure we take them on time, and we're going to make sure that we've checked ahead to be sure that we have all the meds that we need and all of that. And so it's the same way with your food. Your food becomes your medicine, and you just make sure that it's available to you.
Yeah, that's a wonderful anecdote. I think there's this quote, you either fail to plan or plan to fail. So it sounds like you're always prepared, which is essential to sticking to the lifestyle. And you went beyond just changing your own lifestyle. You also now work to help improve other people's lifestyles. And part of that is you're a food for life instructor. So what led you to start to want to become an advocate and teacher?
Well, it actually came to me. So about 4 years ago, I started a side hustle business while I was working full time at another job, of speaking professionally. And my whole topic back then, and it was my passion, and I still have a passion for it, is living intentionally. And what do you really value? And is that what you're working towards? Or are you being distracted by people and circumstances and you're not going towards those things that you value the most? So I would go speak. I designed an intentional living planner, and I go speak to staff and at conferences and different things. Well, when people started seeing my health transformation, suddenly I started getting inquiries for, can you come speak on plant-based eating? Will you do a wellness event for our staff? So I felt like, well, I can certainly share my health transformation story. I can certainly tell people what whole food plant-based eating looks like, but I felt I needed to credential myself, if for nothing, if for no other reason, to give myself a little confidence. So I had already done Forks Over Knives culinary class, plant-based cooking, at the very beginning when I became plant-based myself. So I felt pretty confident there. But I went ahead, of course, and did T. Colin Campbell, Cornell University's certificate in plant-based nutrition. And then from there, I discovered Physicians Committee had the Food for Life program where they could train me to be a Food for Life instructor. So I went through that training. And what Physicians Committee does for me, it's just so cool, is they provide resources for me. So I can take Dr. Barnard by video into my classroom, and he can share the data that they're finding about plant-based eating, whether it has to do with diabetes or breast cancer or whatever. I can take Physicians Committee's dietitians by video into my classroom. I have recipes from Physicians Committee that I obviously can make. I actually have a class tonight that I'm doing locally, and I've been preparing today for that class. I'll be making like 5 recipes tonight. And then I also have like booklets. I can get booklets from Physicians Committee and hand those out in the class. Or let's just say I'm doing a big employee thing and it's on wellness. I can hand out Physicians Committee resources to all the employees that are there. So becoming a Food for Life instructor has given me opportunity to get resources that I wouldn't have otherwise. So that's been very, very helpful. So a lot of doors have opened up on the wellness side of my business that really have amazed me. I'll give you a couple illustrations of recently, it's a mental health center in our area. They have several group homes that they have folks that live in these group homes. They hired me to do 10 weeks of cooking classes, plant-based cooking classes for the staff who will be cooking for the folks who live in these group homes. And so I just finished that this past week, and that was a great experience. And then another local inquiry that I got was a school district hired me to speak at their principals meetings every month during the academic year this year, and do a cooking demo, a plant-based cooking demo, just to encourage healthier eating and healthier cooking with the principals and the vice principals in the school district. So many folks are really concerned about wellness now, and it's a great opportunity to share this message. And I think this is the piece that's missing. I'm sure you're aware of this. The doctor says, oh, you have diabetes or you have heart disease. You really need to, maybe they say plant-based, maybe they say you need to make sure you eat healthier, and they don't go into a lot of description. Then maybe they send them to a registered dietitian who says to them, here's some booklets and here's the diet you should be on. But the part that I'm playing is I'm cooking for you. I'm showing you logistically, how do you cook without oil? Did you know that you can stir fry without oil? Let me show you how I do it. Or here in West Virginia, people do eat like pinto beans, but they don't season it with veggie broth and onions like I do. They want to throw in, pork or something in there to flavor it. So let me show you a good way to flavor your beans when you're cooking them, or let me show you how to eat plant-based on a budget. And I just think the cooking piece is missing. It is the It's the practical way to bring it into your house and actually start doing it.
Yep, absolutely. And at the end of the day, people want to eat what's delicious. So if you're preparing something yummy, they'll eat it and they won't even realize it's vegan or healthy. They'll just be like, this is good. And
Yeah, and they have the misconception that we eat salads all the time.
oh my God. No, I eat way more than salad.
Me
And
too.
speaking of credentials, I see behind you there are some fancy looking degrees, and I think one of them might be your master's in education. And what was your journey to getting that? I know you got it later in life, and how did that degree serve you today?
Well, to be honest with you, the full-time job I had when I started the side hustle speaking business was at a local university. And I eventually, a little over a year ago, I quit at the university and I'm now doing my speaking business full time. But while I was at the university, I actually finished a bachelor's degree because when I was young, I just did an associate's degree, got married, started a family. So I finished my bachelor's degree while I was working at the university and then went on to get a master's degree. Quite honestly, I didn't know what I would do with it. I knew that I didn't want to teach in the public school system, but I love to learn. Like I'm an advocate of professional development and self-development. I don't think we ever get too old to learn. And I thought, you know what, I'm here. I'm going to go ahead and finish up and get a master's degree. So I did, and I'm really glad that I did. It took me 3 years to finish that master's degree, but and I was the oldest student who walked across the stage that day, but it didn't embarrass me. It actually lit a fire under my rear, and it made me realize that, you know what, just like I worked on that master's a little bit every day, I can set goals and work on them a little bit every day, and I can do anything I set my mind to do. That's how I felt getting that degree. I almost felt like there's nothing I can't do. I may be older, but I'm going to keep on learning and discovering and doing those things that I love. So it was a good experience for me, and it has helped me because when I go into like a company or an organization, or a corporation, and they're hiring me to speak to their staff, the fact that I have a master's in ed really does help to have that credential at the end of my name. So I think it has got me endorsed that maybe I would not have been able to speak there if I didn't have it. So I'm really grateful. And a lot of experiences I had at the university. I taught some classes on academic success, and I was always encouraging students to do well in their studies. And just so many things that I did were, I think, in preparation for what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, we can always connect the dots looking back, and you've had quite a journey. Professional speaking. So, as you probably know, public speaking is one of the greatest fears people have. If they're speaking at a funeral, people often rather be in the casket than be the one giving the speech. How did you how did you become a professional speaker? I think that's something which a lot of people aspirationally want to do, but it's super nerve-wracking.
I guess some people have to do it and they don't really want to do it. I can look back in my life and I think I always enjoyed doing it. I feel like it actually is. Well, I'll share this little bit of information. So when I was at the university, I met with a psychology professor one day, and I was telling him that the job that I was doing, I didn't feel very fulfilled at the time. Felt like I was created to do more than what I was doing, but I didn't know what that looked like. I had just experienced an empty nest. I have 4 grown kids, so that was a whole other transition that was happening in my life. And I was like, now what do I do? And so he got me to read a book, and the book at the end, you had written your life's mission statement. So I wrote it out and I shared it with him. And my life's mission statement was, I feel that I was created to motivate, encourage, and compel people to make positive change in their life. Now, mind you, this was like 12 years ago. I had not started a speaking business. And he asked me the day that I shared that with him, he said, who are you going to motivate, compel? I knew nothing that I know now. And I said, I don't know, maybe women, I don't know. And he said, how are you going to motivate, encourage, and compel people? And I said, maybe speaking, I don't really know. But over time, I kind of, knowing that that was my life's mission statement, I started moving in that direction. And I'm so glad that I did, because I believe that if you're using the gifts that you've been given, um, it brings you so much joy. Like, I wake up in the morning and I'm like, yes, I get an opportunity to speak today. And I walk away from a speaking opportunity thinking, yes, that was what I was created to do, especially if I feel like the people in the group, maybe they come up to me afterwards and say, oh, you motivated me so much, or you encouraged me, or now I'm going to do this. Now I'm going to start eating plant-based. I'm so glad you talked to me about this. Then I feel like I'm doing what I am supposed to be doing. So I think I always gravitated to speaking. I always looked for opportunities to plan events, and I would be one of the speakers. And and when I taught the class, it was for students, but I taught it several semesters, teaching them how to be academically successful. It was like speaking every time. I probably had 40, 50 students in my class, and I was always trying to compel them to make positive change and try to motivate them. So I think I always gravitated to that. I'm sure some people struggle with it more. As long as I know the topic well, then I feel very comfortable. But if I feel like I don't know the topic very well, I mean, I could lib a little bit, but I'd rather know what I'm talking about. So I try to prepare well before I go.
You're also more than just a speaker. You're also a conference organizer. I know you've organized your own women's conference. Can you share more about that, and how can people register for it?
Well, I did it. I started doing it um, a couple of years ago, and it's a wellness weekend for women. I may actually change it just to wellness weekend, because I've had some ladies say, hey, I would love for my husband to come to this event. It's always at a West Virginia state park, and that may change moving forward. But it's typically in the fall. So I have it scheduled for September 2024, and it's at a place called Canaan Valley Resort in Davis, West Virginia. And it's back in the boonies, but I'm telling you, it's such a beautiful place, mountain ranges, and I love having it there in the fall because of how beautiful the trees are and all of that. So yeah, in the past, I've used a lot of physicians committee materials to share with folks. And I always get the resort to cook, obviously, plant-based meals for us, and they don't disappoint. They serve great meals for us. I'm hoping this coming fall to make a few changes, and that is, I hope to invite some folks that have their own testimony, so that I'm not the only one sharing my testimony. And so that will be something different. So it is on my website, brendaworkmanspeaks.com, but registration is not open yet, but it will be. They can always subscribe on my website, and then that way they'll get an email telling them when the registration is open for that event. It'll probably be early summer, maybe late spring 2024 when we open the registration for that. But it's just a time to get away and just think for a few minutes about your own health. And I did do a presentation this past fall, even on living intentionally, because I think the mindset is the beginning of taking care of you. What do I really value? And is that really what I'm working on? Or am I being distracted by a lot of things that are really not important at all? And so I started this past fall with that presentation, and then we moved into plant-based eating. And it's very practical. I show them my travel bag and how, when I go to a hotel, what I take in my travel bag in case I eat in my room. And so I think they leave encouraged, and they leave well equipped to be able to continue with their plant-based journey.
And how did the idea come about to create your own conference? I know it's a lot of work behind the scenes.
Yeah, again, I gravitate to that because it's something that I enjoy. I love going to conferences myself. So I can't say that anybody asked me to do that. I just suddenly thought, you know what? I would love to have a conference. And and the turnout was good. And so I thought I'll just continue doing this. And I do want to make some tweaks moving forward. And you're right, there is a lot of work involved, um, um, especially once you start bringing other people in, and trying to make a schedule, and you have to meet and get your food lined out and all of that. But yeah, I love it. I love doing it. Now, if I could, I don't know that I want to do like 6 a year. But right now we're just doing one. If it grows really large, then I may decide to do another one, maybe somewhere else. But right now, we're going with the one in 2024.
That's great. And I love how you're so focused on your local community. A lot of times people trying to create change, they worry about the whole world when really it all starts where you are. And West Virginia is definitely very lucky to have you. Are there other people who you've connected with in the area who are perhaps plant-based or because of you became plant-based advocates as well?
When I was interviewed on the Exam Room podcast by Chuck Carroll, that was such a awesome opportunity I had. Suddenly, there were several people in West Virginia that reached out to me and said, "Hey, we're plant-based too, and we're here in this town," or whatever. Some of them were in remote areas where they really didn't have support, and they appreciated connecting with me and getting some support, maybe through my membership, or sometimes I'll do Zoom classes. Um, but others, they had a little bit of a support group in their area. So it was nice to know there were a few other West Virginians that were doing that. Um, I have to admit that when I do local classes, I sometimes get discouraged because I don't have a large turnout. I want 100 people to come because they should be interested in this. Or let's say I go and talk to maybe a local company, and I know for a fact that their employees could use this information, but they're not interested. It can be disheartening. But then I get emails, Michelle, and the emails, and this is a type of emails that I have received. One gentleman was in one of my classes, and he said, "I started eating plant-based after your class. I'm now off of insulin. I'm a type 2 diabetic, and I don't take my insulin anymore. Thank you so much." Another lady, I think it's been 9 months now that she attended my first class. She's been to several since then, but she started eating plant-based, went all in 100%, lab numbers improved, cholesterol down, all of that. And numerous other people that I've heard that from, that they're losing weight, or that their lab, numbers that they were concerned about are dropping, and the doctor's really pleased. And so when I get those emails, then I think, okay, I'm going to keep preaching this message and hope that somebody, it's like one by one, people are listening, and I think to myself, maybe they don't hear it now. They attend the class and they think, yeah, that's great. The food was good. I'm glad I went to that class, but they don't start applying it. But then there may come a time in their life where, like me, suddenly they're scared. There's something medical that just happened, and they think, "Oh yeah, I remember that class I took, and I'm going to really try to go plant-based because that food was good and I think I could do that." So I may never see the ripple effect of what I'm doing, but I hope to make a change. I really do.
And you certainly are from those emails you're getting. And those only represent a fraction of the people who actually can't, were changed by you. Because a lot of people don't even reach out. So that's very impressive. What do you think is, you do a lot of forms of outreach. What do you think is perhaps some of the most efficacious forms of outreach that you do? For example, do you go to schools, and when you speak to younger children, do you feel like the message is hitting them a lot? Or is it in your cooking classes where you feel like people are the most motivated to change?
It's a hard question to answer. Demographically, those who follow me on Instagram and Facebook are an older demographic. So it's usually like 35 to 70. So it's an older demographic that follow me, maybe because they can identify with me a little bit more and health issues that I had. But I did have an opportunity last year to go to a middle school and do like a parent student night. And I did a demo and I passed out samples. And to my surprise, the junior high kids were like, yeah, like I told them at the beginning, now, if you don't like something, I'm a big girl. You can say, I don't really like that, or say, it's not my favorite. And so I was wanting them to be honest. But to my surprise, they were like, yeah, that was really good. That was really good. um, I remember I made brownie bites and I had several left over because I made a whole bunch. I didn't want to run out. And the kids kept going back and getting these brownie bites. In my mind, I'm thinking, hey, those are really high fiber. I don't know that you should eat 22 of those. But they did like the food. And so, if I had more opportunity to talk to children and maybe, and to me, that's kind of where you may have seen the little saying that says it ran in my family until it ran into me. And I think that's kind of going to be, it has to be where it stops, where this crazy health decline has to stop somewhere. And it either has to be parents that say, okay, family, we're doing something different, or it has to be kids that say, I don't want to have to take insulin shots like my mom did, or I want to do something different, and they choose to do something different. But we've got to come to a stop. We've got to do things differently. If you keep doing the same thing you always did, you'll always get the same results. So there's got to be a change.
Yeah, definitely. Einstein says that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing again and again and expecting different results. So you are creating that change. And what does your membership offer to people?
I love my membership. So people they can join on my website, BrendaWorkmanSpeaks.com. There's a little section at the top that says membership. It's a minimal price, and a lot of folks join for a year. I put them in a private Facebook group. And so in that group, I do live cooking demos. So I'll do, just different things, and I'll come on and say, hey, I'm making this tofu, and let me show you what I do with tofu, because you might be scared of tofu, and let me show you what I do with it, or whatever. So I do live cooking demos. I do challenges. So we always have a Meatless Monday challenge. So people post their pictures and kind of show us what they're doing. I do giveaways. The last giveaway was a book about sprouting, and then lids to go on your mason jar so that you could begin sprouting. So that was the last giveaway. Sometimes I give away cookbooks, sometimes it's a tofu press, but I try to create kind of challenges and drawings where I can give away free stuff. And then the members are very engaged. So they'll say, hey, I ate at this restaurant and here's a picture of what I found. Or, they'll say, recently a member said, I found the Forks Over Knives holiday recipe edition, and I found it at Walgreens, everybody. So she was kind of sharing so we would know where to find that magazine. And so it's just a great support system. And that's what we need. And everybody's at a different place in the journey. Some people want to be plant-based, but they're not yet. Some people maybe do it 80% of the time, but not 100% of the time. We're all on a different journey. There's no shaming, of course. It's just a place to try to encourage folks in their plant-based journey.
Yeah, it sounds like a really wonderful, mutually supportive Facebook group. Are most people in there from West Virginia, or do you have some people who are also just everywhere?
It's growing. And so I know I have a lady from Florida and somebody from New York. And so like when I do these wellness weekends for women, sometimes I'll meet folks from out of state there and they'll join my membership. I would say the majority are West Virginia, but not all are local. Some of them are in other parts of West Virginia, but I do have some out of state folks. And I'm hoping, as time goes on, it'll continue to grow. I do think it's a great support system.
Yeah, and I bet your cooking demos are phenomenal. So very valuable to get on that membership. What are your goals for the future, both personally for your own development and also professionally?
Good question. I have been giving thought to 2024 already, as I'm sure you have too. My entrepreneur mind has just been going in all different kinds of directions. I would like to present more in companies and corporations and with employees, because I do believe that I just see such a need, and people, wellness is the buzzword, yes. But again, it's this practical piece. I want to show them how to cook. I want them to taste my food. I want them to see how good plant-based eating is. So it's not like I'm going to offer them, you know, a video in these workplaces. I want to actually come into the workplace and do a wellness event for folks. So that's something that I want to do. I do have a plant-based course that I'm putting together. And so right after Christmas, I'm going to launch that course. I'll be using the platform Kajabi, which I'm sure you're probably familiar with. And so I'm very excited about that. So it'll have several modules, and it will just be very elementary. This will be for folks that know nothing about plant-based eating, but they want to get started. And so I will be offering a course, like I said, right after Christmas. I plan on launching that. So yeah, I think just I'm all for travel. I don't mind traveling places to speak and to share the plant-based message, obviously. Another cool thing that a group hired me for, I would love to do this. I know this is kind of an unusual situation, but there was a catering kitchen at in a particular town, and this group hired me to go into that catering kitchen and cook a plant-based meal for a special group that they had invited. And so the people, it was all ladies. So all the ladies lined the bar and watched me do my cooking demo. And then we all ate. And the cool part about it was the catering kitchen provided a gentleman on my left that chopped all my veggies for me, and a lady on my right that plated all the food for me. So man, I left that thinking I could do that every day. That was pretty awesome. But it can look different ways. It doesn't have to be lecture style. You can even get people involved in the whole cooking process and chopping process and all that. So it can look different ways, but I want to reach more people in 2024, and I want to be available to companies and corporations and just employees to try to encourage folks to eat intentionally for your health.
Eat intentionally, yes. And how have you personally grown throughout this journey of becoming plant-based? Physically, you had all these amazing transformations. Mentally, how do you feel? Is there a difference in perhaps your confidence?
Yes. In fact, I did a presentation, I think it was last year at a conference, and a woman was in the workshop. I would say I probably had, I don't know, 60 people in this lecture hall that I was speaking to. And she said, I've been to your presentations before. And she said, I see the biggest difference in you. She said, you have so much more confidence than you did. And I do. I feel much more confident in all areas of my life. As far as moods are concerned, that's another thing. Like, it used to be that my moods were more, up and down. And now I'm like this even kilter most of the time. And I think, isn't it amazing what food does? And yeah, so I see a difference in that. Again, I have this confidence that I can do anything I set my mind to do. And most days I'm very positive. I've always been a positive person, but the whole weight health thing felt like something like sitting down on top of me, preventing me from doing the things that I wanted to do. It's like, again, I keep going back to this. It's like an addiction. It is actually destroying your life, destroying your relationships, but yet you feel like you love it and you just want to keep eating that or whatever. But once I broke away from it, it's like this freedom all of a sudden, like, I don't have that sitting on top of me anymore. I'm not thinking, what's the next diet I can do? Or what can I cut back on so I can lose weight this week? Or, oh my gosh, I shouldn't have ate that. Now I'm in a downward spiral. I'm not going through that anymore. Now I can concentrate on other things. And now I can continue, just learning new things and enjoying life. So it's made a huge difference in my life.
Oh, that's phenomenal. And with this kind of energy is there any physical activity you do regularly that helps keep everything working right?
From the get-go, I incorporated walking. And my husband and I have been doing more of that together lately since he's been a little more concerned about his health now. And that's enjoyable. I like walking with him and talking. It puts me in a place where he's kind of stuck and he has to listen to me. Oh, no, I just really enjoy that. But I haven't done a lot of strength training and I want to do strength training. So my son is into strength training. And it's funny you should mention this because I just texted with him last night and said, I'm thinking about starting some strength training because my doctor told me you do lose muscle mass as you age. And so my son was all in. He was like, I'll meet you there in the morning. He was ready to help me out. He's ready to help mom. So I'm probably going to now start incorporating some strength training, because of my age. But yeah, walking is really the only thing that I did along the way.
That's really cool. And I wouldn't shy away from sharing about your strength training to your accountability group on Facebook because I think all of us need a little lift and a little inspiration to not just eat right, but move right. Because we're really talking about here is changing lifestyles holistically.
That's a great idea. And sometimes when you speak it, you're more likely to do it. So maybe sharing that with my group is a great idea. And then that way I may encourage them in that direction as well. And maybe even kind of documenting my progress along the way, which I'm sure will be slow at the beginning. But my son will be very patient with me, I'm sure. But yeah, I'm looking forward to those changes. And I don't even think about age, Michelle, at all. I really don't. I think very positive that I feel good. I wake up every morning. I feel good. I have so much more energy than I used to. And I don't even think about age. I just think, okay, what can I do next? And what can I do next? And I'm always thinking of ideas. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Is there anything I didn't ask you about that you want to share?
The membership, and I appreciate you mentioning that. And if people want to subscribe on my website, they can do that. And then when I have like Zoom classes or I have the wellness weekend coming up in the fall of next year, I'll shoot them an email. So I'd love for them to, and follow me on social media. My personal um, Facebook is Brenda Workman, but where you need to follow is Brenda Workman Speaks, both on Instagram as well as Facebook. So that would be great. But I appreciate you letting me share my story. I really do. I think a lot of folks find themselves in this situation where now all of a sudden it's catching up with them. They enjoyed all those bad foods. They knew it wasn't good for them. And now it's catching up with me. What can I do? But I'm here to tell you that plant-based food is delicious. And I'm finding cuisine that I have never experienced in my life, and spices and herbs and just different things. I enjoy my food more now than I ever have before. So on the other side, it's worth it. It's really worth it.
It truly is. Well, thank you so much, Brenda. It's been a true honor to have you speak here. And I know your message speaks to many people at every point of their journey, whether they're just starting, their wife is nagging them to do something, or they're just, slipping up occasionally, like most of us fall prey to. So thank you again. It's been such a wonderful time.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it, Michelle.
Thank you. Take care.